I'd like to introduce Jessica Ross, who's also doing cross-disciplinary or transdisciplinary research. And this research is actually working with crime and social stress from a spatial distribution. Social stress is an indicator of crime, evaluating spatial distribution of crime using proximate locations at the block level, using census data at the block level, which is not generally very informative. And I also want to mention that Jessica is also working in two different disciplines because of this transdisciplinary research. One is criminal justice, and the other one is geography. Another good marriage, I think. Of course, I think everything is good marriage with geography, so we'll go from there. All right, Jessica, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. I'm going to go ahead and apologize. I caught the JSU bug because of the weather, so if my voice cracks, I just totally apologize. Just kind of bear with me through this. First, we're going to start with our research statements. We suggest that social stress at a localized level and crime have a positive spatial relationship by analyzing the spatial distribution of social stress at the micro level, which means the lowest level of aggregation, and the proximity and density of crime. It is expected that there is a spatially significant relationship between crime and stress. It is hypothesized that spatial distribution of crime is positively related to the spatial arrangement of socially stressed neighborhoods at the micro or block level. We used block level data from the 2010 census, and we created what we call a localized index of social stress, or the LISS. We use the LISS to distinguish areas of higher social stress based on 5 derived variables identified as stress indicators. And we'll go back to those 5 derived variables because that's really what we focused in on our data with crime and stress. All the crime data came from Piedmont, Alabama Police Department, and we had over 1,700 indicators of crime. And now back to our local index of social stress. First, we have all races other than white. Literature suggests that neighborhoods with high percentage of other than white have a higher stress. And from a criminal justice perspective, statistically shown in criminal justice, high crime areas that have other than white, they're going to have more problems. Higher crime is just specifically shown in criminal justice. 2 is our female head of household with no husband present and with children under 18 years. The reason why we chose 18 years is because in Alabama, the legal age of an adult is 18, which means they're no longer considered a minor and they can live on their own. Housing tenure is rental versus house ownership. Vacancy rates. High vacancy indicates economic downturn. And then the number of children under 14 years of age per household. The reason we chose under 14 is because the data that we used from the census went by 5, and we really wanted to use 12, but since we had to go from 9 to 14, we had to add the 14-year-olds in. The reason why we did that is because 14-year-olds, they're kind of more socialized and they know how to take care of themselves, so there's maybe not such a higher stress into the household. Methodology. We analyzed spatial distribution of crime at the micro level from 2009 to 2011. And as you can see by this little chart, the red dots show the highest amount of crime in Piedmont, Alabama, and then it furthers out with other various crimes. Then we classified demographic data and calculated the social stress. We created spatial databases of stress based on 5 derived variables and then classified them into 6 groups, and that's this little slide right here. And then we created a spatial database of all crime using the UCR, which is the Universal Crime Report, and it's an annual crime statistics within the United States. We then created a centroid of each block, buffered each centroid at the quarter-mile and the half-mile level, calculated crimes at all quarter-mile buffers, and then ran correlations between the crime and the stress. And now we're going to look at the 3D crime model at the block level. As you can tell, that these are not representing houses, they're actually representing different blocks of crime. Again, we have the 6 different classes, with it being color-coded and 0 being the lowest amount because there were certain areas that did not have any crime. And we also did it by height. which indicates higher values of crime. So you can look at the data and it's represented in 2 different ways. And then we put it back with our kernel density hotspots. And as you can tell, these red little dots here is where we have the highest amount of crime in these little 3 areas. So as you can, these 2 correlate with one another, just in 2 different ways. And now we did a 3D stress model of the block level with stress. The height indicates higher values also, but we also use color. The color classification indicates the 6 different classes of stress. We did have to use gray. We had non-residential, and if you don't have anyone living there or residing there, it means no stress. So we had to include that in our model. So you can see right here, we have a lot of stress area, and then it kind of goes out as we go further from the main part of town. And then we decided to put the 2 together. As you can tell, all the stress is located in the middle, surrounded by the crime. Now, is there a reason for this? We came up with one. As a criminal justice major, I've had crime causation, and we always wonder, why is there crime? What is the main reason for it? And stress is usually the answer. So, what do you think? Out of our 5 variables of crime using the LISS, 3 of them included households and 2 were children. So if we look at these like they're households, the crimes around them. And in criminal justice, you don't want to commit crime in your own neighborhood. That will only bring suspicion to you, and it'll also make you look more guilty. You also don't want to destroy the house that you're living in. You don't want crime in your own neighborhood. So you're going to go further out from the source. So that's a good reason why the stress and the crime are correlated around each other. Spatial levels. We analyze association between the LISS and crime data at varying spatial relationships. We use a quarter-mile and a half-mile radius, and these are 2 of the maps that we'll explain further. This is me using it at the quarter-mile radius. Basically what we did is we buffered at a quarter-mile radius from a centroid. Each one of these circles has a specific centroid, and what we found out is that there was a correlation of 0.307 and it was specifically significant at the 0.01 level, which means there's a 99% chance that this data did not occur by accident, that there is a correlation between crime and stress. Then we did the same thing at the half-mile radius. Again, we used a specific centroid for each one of the circles. We did not include the 1/4 mile, so we didn't duplicate the data because we really want to show her the further you get away from stress, the less crime that will be there. So we have a correlation of 0.192, but we also have a significant of 0.01, again, which means there's a 99% chance that this data did not be created by accident. And on to our discussion. We found that there is a direct correlation between stress and crime. As our centroid map shows, there is a spatial relationship between crime and stress. We also went further into the centroid as crime dissipated. We anticipated that it was because of distance decay, which means the effective distance on spatial interactions. Another easy way of putting it, the further you get away from something, the less it's going to affect you. Future research, me being a criminal justice major, I absolutely love crime. I'm a crime junkie, and I really want to go more into why is crime caused, what stress causes it, and the locations. So we have about 5 to 6 different classes we really want to go into. One of those being sex and kidnapping, assault, theft and burglary, as you can see, is one of the biggest ones, and I really think that's because of the high levels of household stress and the younger adults in that area. Fraud and criminal mischief, again, deals with the younger population. And last, drug and alcohol. And I reserve my time for questions.